For this Washington football team, they started off the season a little rocky, and to talk about the playoffs wasn't even part of anybody's conversation. But they put together a string of wins and started moving things in the right direction. But these last 2 weeks, they've had a few hiccups, but the formula is simple for this team. Win, and you're in. We'll talk about that and a lot more as Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus is coming up next.
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. What are we doing here? We're having a good time, even though the Washington football team did not do what they were supposed to do and win the game and go to the playoffs. So what do? They talk about this is one of the greatest defensive lines that the Washington team or any team has ever had that they have at the present. So I go and I bring in a defensive line that for these guys with the 4 Super Bowls. I'll start naming you some names and you'll talk about great players. Number 71, I see a C-Rock, a Charles Mann. I look at a number 72, I see a guy out there in sweats. Yeah, bicycle sweats, saying he's going to get to the quarterback. He did too, number 72, Dexter Manley. Then you go inside to the guy that had to be next to Dexter, because Dexter didn't like to play the run all the time. So we had to have a great dude that could play the run and pass rush. So we go and get a guy we call World because he could do it all, Daryl Grant. And last but not least, you had a guy at that time. He was one of the biggest guys in the league. He was our only 300-pounder, and he played like that too. Went to the Pro Bowl. You got Dave Lutz in. What's happening, guys?
How you doing?
Hey, Tony.
Now, let me bring in the rest of my crew. I don't want them to think, you know what, now that I got you guys here, hey, Mike, cut them all off. We can talk about it. We got G here. G, you here with the defensive player. We got Milton Homer here. And Donna, I know this is a good week for you because you get a chance to talk about people. But, let's get this started. We all know the news. Haskins is no longer here. I don't feel he should be here. But at the same time, I cannot charge him with the loss of that game last week. He was part of it, but every facet of the team helped them to lose that game. You look at an offense that can't score points. You look at a defense that they run on them 10 plays in a row and they can't stop them. You look at special teams that give up a touchdown.
They was getting kicked on the run.
Wait, man, we gonna have to block that one out. We're young people. We are on television now. So
I'm sorry.
We have to say that again. They were getting their ends beat at that time.
Tushes. Or,
it was
tushes. Gibbs would say buns. Buns.
Well, let's go to
the buns, like Gibbs say buns.
Bunsy. That's how he got the nickname Bunsy. Yeah.
Right, Bunsy. I remember that. Let me ask you guys something. Right now, everybody feels like Haskins is the biggest reason, but on that game on Sunday, I just don't feel like this defense delivered either. Talk to me, anyone.
Well, I'm going to let Daxter start with this, Tony.
Yeah, I think the defensive line has been well talked about, but they didn't play behind the line of scrimmage, and they couldn't get to the quarterback. So I think that the defense go hands in hand with the offense. Offense was 3 and out. They had no rhythm. And because of that, Dwayne Haskins didn't play very well. And that was the reason that special teams, the guy muffed the punt and they scored off of it.
So in other words, like Dexter's saying, guys, and you knew when we went to the Super Bowl, the one thing they said, we did it as a team, we did it in 3 facets. And if you look on Sunday, all 3 facets kind of failed us. But the one thing I want you to just tell me, Dave, they tell me this defensive line is better than you guys. What do you see with this defensive line? What happened on Sunday?
It appeared they just didn't get to be successful. You need everybody trying to get there. Everybody trying to be first one at the ball, because when after the first one gets there, the second one and third one, hit them pretty damn hard, because they're pretty well stood up. And it didn't look like that happened. Didn't look like they had, you want to punish somebody when you play. You don't want to sit
pain
out
on
there.
Now, offensively, I'm going to just ask you, G. Offensive line did not do okay. I'm looking at the running backs. That's the only part of the offense I felt that they really performed. But I felt like the wide receivers kind of disappeared on us.
Well, it was definitely an ugly game offensively. Sometimes the passes, I weren't even quite sure why they was even thrown in some of the directions that they thrown them into. When you got 1-on-3, that ball should not be going to that person. Also, if you got 1-on-3, that means somebody else is open. If I got 3 people in one area on one guy, that means another receiver is open somewhere else. So it's tough to see, because unfortunately you don't get to see the whole field like we would do in a film session. But
Right.
I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me. I would never, throw a pass where there's 3 guys and there's one person, unless you would have put it right on them. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean,
Gary, they were missing Terry McLaurin, and they had already setting it up that, hey, it's going to be a big loss without Terry out there. And, if you're all expecting one guy to win it for you, it takes a whole team. So, without McLaurin out there, somebody else gets a chance to step up.
Yeah.
And on the offensive side, they didn't.
Yeah, but
that's all facets of it. The offensive line, to me, the offensive line did not play that well. And as I said, the running backs seemed to do well. But Donna, if you have a chance to beat a 4-10 team, and that's all you need to do, you can't do that. Do you deserve to be in the playoffs?
Well, no, Tony, they this game was so pivotal because the Giants had already lost. So for them, all they had to do is go and win the game. But I'm not giving anybody passes, and I'm not giving this offense or Dwayne Haskins, because you turned over the ball 3 times.
You already gave him his pass.
No, well, yeah, he's gone. But the thing about it is, if you're hurting yourself, nobody else has to hurt you, because you ended up turning over the ball 3 times right off the bat. The special teams turn over the ball and they score a touchdown. Then Haskins throws 2 more picks in the first half. And this Washington football team has not scored a touchdown or scored in the first half in 6 of their 8 last games. So, Tony, if you can't put the ball in the end zone, you're not going to win. I know I talk about the defense a lot, but the defense only gave up 14 points. If the offense could just score some points to give them an opportunity, then they could have probably won that game. Now, I'm calling out coaching too, because why did they not change the quarterback situation coming out of halftime? Because Haskins was struggling so bad, Tony, that if they would have changed the quarterback at that point, maybe this team would have won that game and been in the playoff and not having to win out in Philadelphia, which is going to be hard.
Well, you know what, though, Donna, you're right. He made the right move, but they did not know what they had at that time. They didn't know that young quarterback was going to come off the bench and perform that way.
Well, they knew what they had with Haskins struggling.
Donna, 2020 is a wonderful thing. 2020 is a wonderful thing. So let's look at this. It's very hard to dissect this when there were so many moving pieces out of place. McLaurin's out, as Charles said. The defensive line is not gelling in the early parts of the game, and they were shredded, basically. And so if we make the quarterback change, doesn't necessarily put us in win position. It just changed that
situation though.
Because
it's if he came into the game, the offense moved immediately.
But you know what? I think there was pressure that we didn't see. There was some pressure to keep Dwayne Haskins in the second half, and I don't know if that pressure came from upstairs or if Ron Rivera has all the autonomy that he needs. But I would have made that change at halftime as well. And so the fact that he didn't seems to me that there was some pressure there that we aren't talking about.
Well, you know what, guys? I have the answer to that question. Let's go to the tape because Coach Rivera talks about why he did not pull Haskins at halftime.
Whatever it takes to win, that's what I'm going to decide. And if I'm wrong, at the end of the day, I'm wrong, and I'll take their responsibility. I mean, I thought based on what I saw from Dwayne during the week and what I saw at the second half of last week's game, the one against Seattle, I thought that we would be able to carry that over into this game. And unfortunately, I didn't see that. I made the change after the first series he got in the third quarter because we got down to the red zone. I don't want to call it a fluke play, but we got down into the red zone on a play he found Cam wide open. But unfortunately, we couldn't punch it in. And at that point, that was concerning to me because, you get to the red zone, you have to score touchdowns. It's tough enough trying to beat one team, let alone trying to beat two, ourselves and whoever we're playing. And that's the thing that's really disappointing because when I pointed it out to the guys, you think about it. We fumble a punt, okay? We allow a long run, okay? We turn the ball over. We blow a coverage, okay? That's 20 points right there. That's the disappointment. It's not like they sustained these long drives and shoved it down our throat without us helping them. Okay, it's one thing to take the ball like we did twice with Taylor and take it all the way down to the red zone. Okay, going forward, everybody's in the same situation. It all depends on what we do. We control it. And the biggest thing is we got to want to do it. We don't have to do it. We got to want to do it. That's the truth. Take the pressure off ourselves and just go out and have fun. That's the truth of the matter. Nobody expected us to be in this position. You guys didn't expect us to be in position. Really, the only guy that did was me. Okay, and I believe that. So I'm going to tell it to the players. That's the truth as far as I'm concerned. It might be from my version, but that's I get the players to believe that we control our own destiny. It's in our hands, all the cliches, but we're going to have fun with it.
Well, it was in their hands, but right now it's not in their hands unless we hope that Philadelphia next week have their cars already backed up to the stadium and waiting for the off season. Charles, let's take a look at this very quickly. We only got a minute and a half. He said they expected to be here. He didn't make the changes. Now, I'm going to tell you that Haskins, all of those were not his fault. He did get hit a couple of times when he was throwing. So what I'm saying is the offensive line did not have much to help him.
I disagree. Completely.
That's why I came to you. Come on.
Yeah. So here's the deal. You got to have an internal clock in your head. You can't hold the ball for 6 or 7 seconds and expect it to be. There were people open, but he was hesitant to make the move. On that fourth down play that lost the game at the end, there was somebody, before they moved him out, there were 2 guys open, standing right there at 3 yards in front of him, and he overlooked them and tried to roll out and got sacked. So he's not making quick enough decisions. Somehow in his head, stuff is moving way too slow or fast. I don't know what's going on.
Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted you to say again, I got to take a break now. And Daryl Grant is here, and we'll get to him too. You guys just heard it. I did that on purpose. I knew Charles was going to feel that way. So now when you guys ask me what happens, Haskins played the way he played when he went to the party this week. So they gave him an apple and a roadmap, and we won't see him next week. We'll be back in a moment to talk defense. Welcome back to the show. And one thing that we will do is not keep talking about the past because right now, the Washington team needs to win one more game to get in the playoff. But we will talk about what do they need to do. They need for this defensive line and this defense in general to step up and make some big plays. These guys that you see on the screen right now, I can vouch because I was there with them. I saw them take this team to 4 Super Bowls. We had a little help from Gary Clark and the guys like that. Very little. No, we had great help from our offense. But these 4 guys made it happen. So now here's what I want to talk about. Each guy, I want you to look at the guy at your position on that defensive line. Tell me a little bit about it. Charles, you had the last comment where you were very right on everything you were saying about that quarterback and holding the ball too long. Tell me about the defensive lineman, Sweat, #1 draft choice, plays your position quite a bit. What do you see with him? Is he coming along the way he should in his second year? Is he in the position to be a player as good as you were?
Well, first of all, I like him. He's right size for a defensive lineman, a defensive end. He is. I think he handles the run block, which is important to me. I think he makes a lot of tackles around the ball, and so I like that. And so, as far as I'm concerned, he's a second-year player. He's on track to be, a great player. But 2 years in the league don't make you great. So, he needs to continue to grow, which I think he is, be consistent, which he is. And, so far, so good. I like him. What's happening is, though, they're rotating between him, Ryan Kerrigan, and Chase Young. So there's like a 3 changes, and then they stand them up and let them drop back in the pass coverage sometimes, which can throw you off. So, you got to take all that into account as well. But so far, I think he's on track to be a solid player.
Dexter, Chase Young, #2 pick in the draft, going to the Pro Bowl. And now I remember you when I came here, you were about in your first or second year then. You ran a 4.5, bench press 500 pounds, very active. Somewhat similar to yourself is this young man. Do you think he is where he should be right now? But the one thing I want to ask you, the year that you went to the Pro Bowl, how many sacks did you have? And I know he only had 5.5 this year, so talk to me.
I had 18.5 sacks with the help of David. 18.5 sacks with Daryl Grant and Charles Smith. I ran a lot of plays over to Charles. He was unfortunate to get there. I got there. Dave Buck was a big crew.
Wait. Right in the mid, Charles. Talk to me. You can't let that get
It's true. I'm not going to. Hey, look, Dexter and I, the 9 years we played together, and the 8 that I was on the other side, because the first year I was behind him, he beat me in sacks every single year. But that's okay, because, see, they only paid him to make sacks. I made tackles as well. See, you couldn't run on our side with Dave and myself. You weren't running it over there. Unfortunately, Daryl Grant had to run sideline to sideline to take up for Dexter's slack.
Wait a minute. This is a Super Bowl, 4 Super Bowls. Wait a minute. Okay, Big Dave, I'm going to get to you with Daryl.
Dexter, remember when you were yelling at the Chicago Bear game, you were saying, run it over here to the coach.
Daryl got wore out. Daryl Grant got wore out that game.
Guy in motion and lifted your cleats up into the air. After you said run it over here, you start saying run it over there. Run it over there.
Well, you know what? It's funny. I heard about that for Dexter. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we do not have video on Daryl Grant, number 77. And I'm going to tell you what, this young man, and I'm going to tell you how versatile he was. He started playing with us as an offensive center. And he could play offense. He could play defense. He was one of the best special teams players, but he went over there at defensive tackle and made a home for himself. Now, I do remember one thing, Daryl. You did have to play the run extra hard over there. Was that because of the big 18-sack guy that you had over there, or what?
Look at Tony. Dexter told me they don't pay me to play the run. They pay me to sack the quarterback. At times, he would take an inside pass rush, and I had to go outside to get contained. You know, and a lot of plays like that. But that's my brother, man. He's cool like that. You know, Big Dave was cool like that. Big Dave was a little nervous. When I came from offense to defense, Big Dave was a little nervous. He said, "This is an offensive lineman playing next to me." But Big Dave said, you know, he realized, hey, this dude can play defense.
All right.
Well, you know what? Now, tell me, Daryl. They say these two defensive tackles from Alabama are very, very good. Tell me what you see in them.
I see hard work, but I need to see more hustle. I need to see more pressure out the middle. They got to put more pressure up there in the middle, man. They had too much running, too much was running. We stopped people, man. We played games. The people don't remember that Cats only made 5 yards rushing.
Oh,
Me and
Herschel
Big Dave
Walker.
in the middle. They had less. They had zero. They had zero. Dave, they had 0 yards rushing. We played against Rams, and they had minus yards rushing.
You talking about Eric Dickerson? Yeah, in the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But you know what?
I think
You know what?
Walker.
A good point that I do want to bring up, and this is for you, Big Dave. You fans just heard Daryl Grant say, "Yeah, we stopped them on the run, and we don't see a lot as good a hustle as I'd like to see from the defensive tackles." Do you know both of those guys got to the quarterback as well? One year, I remember 3 of us had double-figure sacks. The main one with 11.5 sacks was Big Dave Butts, and you didn't hear that from a defensive tackle.
Right.
Dexter had 10.5, and I had 10, and then we had Monty Coleman that may have had 9. So what they're saying is, and then Charles, you were a rookie then. I think you had 6 or 7 or something, did you not?
I had 3.5 my rookie year. Dexter didn't let me play much.
I'm trying to stay away from that. So, but Dexter didn't want you to get on the field because he knew
No.
you'd be there?
No, he did not.
But Dave, tell me now, Dave, you give me your assessment of this defensive tackles and this defensive line.
Well, they need to shed people quicker, and they need to stay lower. I don't know how some of them are, how they're working their stance. I had my fingers taped in a figure 8. I could put about 40 more pounds because my fingers were bent instead of elongated. Elongated, there's too long of a fulcrum. You know, when you get down like that, not only does it bring you down, but you can bring 40 more pounds. And I'd like to see more penetration and not standing up on the line like they do. They come right out of their stance and stand up.
Excellent.
You brought up a point here. Gibbs told us a long time ago, he said that, or it's a long time ago now, but he said if you turn the ball over twice, statistically, you're losing the game.
Exactly.
That's just a given. So when that happens, you know, you just can't give stuff. And this comment about the coach, nobody expected us to be there but me.
Okay.
Well, damn it, when you get there, you gotta do something with it. Don't let them win. You need to keep that driving the thirst to knock the sweat off of somebody, you know?
Oh, you guys are working hard to use the good language. I thank you guys very much. Hey, G, speaking of working hard to use the good language, a lot of people say they saw you on the sideline cursing at head coaches. When you look over there at this defense and you see these guys here, did you think about when you look at the defense that you see now compared to these guys with these 4 Super Bowl rings, what's the difference? What's the edge? Were these guys a little bit more aggressive? Were they technique-wise a little better? Or were they just better team mates?
Well, I think it's a combination of all those things you just said. I think the expertise that this team had by the time I got there, Dexter, Charles, Butsies, these guys are artists at their position, like really artists at their position. You're talking about Pro Bowlers, you're talking about Super Bowl champions, you're talking about people that understand that when you came in, I came into a certain culture that they were a big part of creating. I mean, my rookie year, the culture was already set. You did things a certain way. At that point in time, they call it the Redskin way. You did it the Redskin way. And the culture, that's what you came up into. You know, what you weren't going to take and what you would take. And these guys didn't take anything. And you could expect them to be accountable for one another. And that's the big part. Like, accountable to one another is huge. Right now, I'm not sure if this team is accountable to each of their teammates. Like me, I didn't want to let my teammates down because they counted on me to do certain things. And when I did let them down, I expected them to help pick me up, you know. And right now, I'm not sure that's what's happening. There's no way that you lose 2 games in a row when all you have to do is win one to clinch. These guys, that doesn't happen.
And you can't let that happen. And you fans, listen to what these guys are saying. The one thing we want to do on this show today is show you what a winning attitude is like with football players that not only want to win physically, they want to win mentally as well. And I know, Donna, when I come back, you and Homer Jones, I'm Milt. I know y'all got some questions. I got about a minute. Do you have any questions for any of the players before I go out? Donna?
Yeah. In a game as big as that this game was this past week, and to come in to look like you saw Carolina be more aggressive, they look like that they were trying to get into the playoffs versus the other way around. When you look forward to next week's game against Philadelphia, and you've got a mobile quarterback in Hurts, what do you do defensively, guys, to start off fast? Because this defense has started off slow, I think, in most of the games this season. And if they don't start off fast against a Philadelphia team that doesn't have anything to lose, what is the key for this coming week defensively? Because we know the offense hasn't been putting enough points on the board.
Now, I'm going to ask you guys there, when you talk about defense, did I tell Donna we had 2 minutes when she started that question?
She asked a 30-minute question.
Was that question 2 minutes long? So
that was a 30-minute question, Tony. I have to ask my question next week.
I'm going to have you
I have to get it in so that they can ponder it to know how to answer it.
Okay, so y'all ponder that question during this timeout. And we're going to give a little stopwatch for Donna so we'll know what to do. But we'll be back in a moment. Now, you are talking about...
There's no room under there. It's full already.
We're going to talk about throwing them on top of the bus. We'll be back in a moment. Well, as you look at me, I'm very sad right now because I have to talk about a person that's not playing well. Oh, that's Donna's cousin. He's playing pretty well. So we'll let Donna Hodgson, before we talk about her cousin who's kicking well, she want to ask the question of the defensive lineman. Donna, take it away.
Hey, since Tony brought in all defensive players and since Tony always
Gary don't count?
Gary don't count?
Defensive
lineman. Brought in all defensive players. Gary is a stay on the show. But Tony always saying that I throw the defense under the bus. I told him only if I need to throw him on the bus, but this time he's on the bus with me. So next week you got the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. It's a night game. They moved it to a night game. What is it that this defense must do from the beginning of the game to slow down Hurts and really get a quick start?
I'll go first. First of all, they have to play behind the line of scrimmage. And then,
yes.
Yeah, then they have to be more disruptive. They haven't been disruptive. They don't play behind, they catch blocks. And I think if they can play behind the line of scrimmage and create turnovers, they can win this football game.
Dang, Dex, you in church, girl. You preaching, man.
Hey, Tony,
I'm looking at that same game. Hey, since he preaching so much, you'll preach you.
Hey, Tony, what is catch block? When Dexter talks about catch block, what does he mean?
A catch block is when
catching a block.
Line is playing on your side of the ball. You're supposed to play on their side of the ball. They're bringing the pain to you. The one thing that you always do if you are going to be in this league, and I've seen every one of these guys, they dominate the line of scrimmage. It's a 2-yard stretch there. Whoever win that 2-yard stretch is going to win the game. And whoever win it first is going to win the game.
Donna, let me explain it like this. Guys are always bench pressing. They're bench pressing. They're extending their arms. Well, what you do is you take that offensive lineman and you bench press them. You straighten your arms. You lock your arms out while driving him across the line of scrimmage instead of on his side of the ball.
Exactly.
And then the key is you have to discard him. That means throw him to the side. Dexter and I were really good at that because we had really good grips. And so you're actually grabbing that offensive lineman, extending your arms, stretching him out. Dave, I never ever saw Dave get pushed off the line of scrimmage.
Exactly.
Now, a reason. He's 325 pounds heavier than everybody else. But
315.
he played with
Don't give
low
me any
leverage.
extra weight.
Huh?
315. Don't give me any extra weight.
Okay, 315. I'm sorry. I gave him 10 extra pounds.
Hey, Dave,
Well, you know,
the
as
only
we get
one
older, we
can
want to
brag on.
exaggerate a little bit. Come
Very,
on.
very sensitive about that weight deal.
Wait a
Okay.
minute.
Well, he would be carving ducks on the sideline when he would run back out onto the field to do this.
I got a couple.
That's
of
the story I
he does a
tell in
good
this day and
job.
age. But that's playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and I agree with that. What Dexter said. I also think that you have to know. I mean, in my latter part of my career, I played 12 years. From 7 years to about 12, I already knew what was coming. I had watched film. I knew the sets. If they were in a black set, they were in a brown set, they were in a tan set. These are different sets that the team would be in. You know what plays were coming out of them. What'd you say, Daryl?
Think ahead of the play.
Yes.
Exactly.
So we had some smart guys. Dexter may have brought his briefcase with a Wall Street Journal in it, but he was reading that Wall Street.
He
I
come in with a Wall Street Journal. Here we are here getting ready. Wait, and then he's over there. Wait a minute. He's over there next to Mosley, who's spraying his hair. And then next, when I came in, Joe Bird Lavender would be over there smoking a cigarette. I said, what's happening with this team? And now let's go back and finish that question. Dave and
Dexter would come in with the Wall Street Journal folded under his arm, and I said, Dexter, what are you doing with the Wall Street Journal? There's no cartoons in that. You remember that,
Dexter? Every day too.
What you're hearing is we played hard on Sunday, but we had a lot of fun. We were a very close team.
You have to
very close team.
You have to get penetration. And what you were talking about, straighten your arms out and then leaning. If you just lean, you'll back up a person 4 more or 5 more inches, and that gives you enough. Not only is it locking your arms out helps, but you get distance so that you can make a move. But you need to get penetration from somebody or several people. I mean, alternate or whatever. You got to get penetration because that throws off the whole backfield. Takes part of their offense away from them.
And I used to get Dave very upset when I would make my little inside move sometimes, Dexter, just like you would do. I learned that from Dexter, Dave, by the way.
But then I would automatically go outside, you know.
You would. And it looked like we were running a stunt.
Right.
And we got penetration.
I can remember one time watching Dexter take a hard inside, and the whole team was slanting this way. The whole defense was slanting this way. Dexter takes a hard inside, so I see it. I come all the way out behind Dexter. I'm not supposed to be there, and chase the quarterback out of the end zone, out of the sideline rather. So we adapted for each other. We made up for other things like Neil Oakwitz. I said, Neil, the middle linebacker, you ever see my left arm going out? Get your behind to the outside because that's where the play is going. I'll be along in a little bit, but and it worked for us. It's just little things like that work.
But not World, you did a little bit different because you felt like you would cover a lot of times because Mr. D was one of the best pass rushers in the league, but you would try to cover for him inside and out, and also play it on the other side of the ball. Correct?
Yeah, man, I tried to move everywhere I could, man. Brother, I remember when Charles was young, real young, and he say, well, how you make a play over there on the side of me? And I'm on the left side. Because I hustle hard, baby.
He did. He was sideline to sideline.
But I'm going to tell you what, guys. This
great motor.
Listen, and this is how I want. Okay, we in this segment we're supposed to talk special teams. Donna Hopkins did make his only field goal, right? And then the other guy gave them a touchdown, right? So special teams stuck it up, right? Okay, now let's talk back with you guys. I did my special teams.
So that's it.
So tell me
What
the
does this
question.
line need to do? How many sacks do they need to just try to contain this quarterback, or do they need to bring him down? What about the running game? They did not stop the running game the way they should have on Sunday.
You know, let me just jump in, and I'm talking way too much, but let me just say this: you need leaders, and this team seems to have leaders. At least they have C's on their jerseys and captains, and but and they get them taken. But like Gary was talking earlier. Let me just say this: he came into a culture that he's talking about. But he adapted that culture right away. And I'm telling you, you don't want Gary Clark in your face getting on you about playing hard or whatever when you know he was out there playing when he shouldn't have played because his hamstrings were torn to shreds and he still played. When people like that were playing and giving it up, you couldn't help but to play hard. And so we need guys, you talked about these guys need to play hard. They need to play hard because they're motivated by the guy next to them. Chase Young in the game last weekend, Chase Young was playing his heart out and looking for somebody just to step up with him. Now, what Gary would do is Gary get in your face and make you step up and play hard, And Chase he's too young to be able to get up in somebody's face and MF them like Gary would do it.
But you know what? And I saw that in that game as well, Charles, and I thought that was interesting. Now, Milt, you and Donna, y'all can ask these guys. Go on, let's keep
Let me just. I'm so intrigued by this conversation because if we think about it, just take a deep breath and just think about it.
I got 1 minute now. I got 1 minute. Come on,
okay, Milt. So you got Charles, you got Dave, you got Dexter, and you got World. These are Pro Bowl caliber individuals. These are 4-time Super Bowl champions. So at this level of play, how much does strategy have to do with the kinds of things that you see lacking in the current defensive line that you see?
Hold that
scheme
question.
And strategy.
I want you guys to answer that in the next segment because what we'll do in the next segment, not only we've done enough with special teams, we did talk about the guy that went down there and gave the touchdown up as well. So we know special teams did not do their job. But when we come back, fans, we're going to talk more about this defense because ultimately, and I love you, Gary, you know that anyway. But if this team is going to the playoffs, defense will take them there. We took Gary them there, but they didn't realize it. We still trying to make them understand that. Gary, offense doesn't win championships. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. And, it's really a lot of fun right now from whence we came. And I'm speaking of 4 weeks ago when you thought Washington was not even going to have opportunity to be speaking the playoffs. So what are we doing right now? We want you as fans to take a look at this team. Compare, you got 4 of the greatest defensive players that ever played this game for Washington here that you can listen to what they did when they prepared. They did not enter and be involved in 4 Super Bowls because they weren't the best at what they do. So what I want to do is ask you guys right now, and Milt, you and Donna, I haven't had your opportunity, but Donna, you had a question. You want to finalize that question.
Yeah, with Dave Butts, he said something key. He said that when they played, he said that even if he was going to make a move here, he was telling the linebacker what to do in following him in stopping the run. So when you look at this Washington team right now with the guys up front, how do they communicate? Because the linebacker play has suffered this year. How do they get that communication going moving forward in not only the game on Sunday against the Eagles, but if they happen to make it into the playoffs? That communication part that I think is lacking a little bit.
Well, you gotta have the communication from the preseason on. I mean, you got to be able to talk and communicate. It's a very simple thing. If you see my left arm go out, my guard's going for you. So if I hold him on the line a little while, that allows Opowitz to get out there and splatter back, and I'll be along eventually. So that kind of communication you grow with, just like watching, you're actually trying to get to the quarterback, but you're watching everybody else too that is wearing the red jersey or the white jersey. You know, your own teammates you're watching and you're covering for them. Hey, some things happen and you just got to make up for it.
Right, watching for him. That's key, Donna. And what Dave was describing there is he saw that he was getting ready to get a reach block. That means the guard was trying to reach him, and he was going to pass Dave off to the next tackle that was scoop blocking or whatever, and then that guard was going after the linebacker. Well, Dave would grab that guard so he couldn't get to the second level to the linebacker. That meant the linebacker could flow and make the play. Dave wasn't going to make the play. Dave wasn't going to get a lot of credit, but Dave helped save that linebacker to get to that next, to get to the play. I don't know if guys are doing that now. I don't know if it's all about them, because after a guy makes a play, he stands there and he's yahooing and he's dancing and all this and that. We didn't do that. You know, we didn't have time for that. I didn't have the energy to do all that.
Right. Hey, wait. These guys feel like they gotta every play. They gotta say, "Look at me! I did this. I did."
You could be down 20 points and they're doing it.
But if you run it back, most of them weren't blocked.
But
No, that is funny.
He's dancing about hitting a quarterback or a running back that was never touched on the way there.
Now, I'm gonna ask you guys. And speaking of not being touched, World, I'm gonna start with you. Who was the toughest player you ever played against?
I'm probably gonna say that John Hanna was probably the best lineman I ever played against. And
I'm gonna have him on the show in 2 weeks. I'm gonna make sure I bring you on, because I knew
hard.
I had a great game against him.
Okay.
In New England. John Hanna was a bad boy, man.
Yes,
he was with the Cardinals, wasn't he? With the Cardinals?
No, John Hanna. His brother was
with New
His
England.
brother was with Tampa Bay. John Hanna was with me up in New England.
Okay.
Number one draft pick. Matter of fact, I just spoke to him. He's down here in Alabama now. He owns a big farm down on the end of Alabama and Georgia.
John Hanna was a bad boy.
Yes,
and
he was.
It was
played very low.
Well,
very low. Had real large legs.
I watched him on film, and I said, this is what I'm gonna have to do with him. I'm gonna crowd him. And what I did was I crowded the line. I got right on him because I knew I watched everybody else was backed up off of him and he would kill him. I said, no, I ain't backing up off of him. I said, I'm gonna crowd him where he don't have no power to get me.
Okay, now let me hit you, G. And I'm gonna hit each of you. So give me a question. G, who's the toughest defensive back you ever won against?
Probably Everson Walls. Everson was a beast. He was really good.
And he's kind of big too.
Well,
Charles.
Well, probably geez.
No, it wasn't nobody that bad.
No, Jackie. No, Jackie Slater.
Jackie, I remember the Jackie game. The Jackie game.
Yeah, Jackie was such a technique guy. Played 20 years in the league. So I got to give him his due. I did beat him on an inside move for a safety against Vince Ferragamo.
No, you beat his ass all the time. You beat him all the time.
Wait a minute. Let me tell you this. If I had to give my top two guys, Jackie Slater would be one of mine as well. Dave Butts.
Joe Lamoliere. He had an extremely hard head.
Buffalo.
I mean, he would come out and lead with that head, and I mean, I would just get tired of hitting him with my forearm. You know, that's why I wore a pad on my right arm so I could hit people. And he had such a hard head. Yeah, I tried to break it, but I couldn't do it. You know, he just came out. He never took a play off.
Yeah, I remember. And you know what? Not only was he that kind of dude on the field, he was kind of like that off field. Real good guy. Dexter, I know you and Mr. D, and it probably wasn't nobody in there that could handle you, but who got close to handling you?
Well, I will say this here. There's two guys I have a lot of respect for, but I think in the trenches, I won the battle. I would say Jimbo Covert, Gary Zimmerman.
And who was the second one?
Who was the second?
Gary Zimmerman with the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh yeah, very good feet. He played another position first. Then he came in. He had very good feet, very good movement, and that's what really made him tough. I kind of remember him. Look, we got to take another quick break. When we come back in the end, I had to find out from you guys if this Washington team gets in, can they make some noise? And speaking of making noise, you guys don't know, we have some picks that we do each and every week. And it's a lot of money riding on those picks, maybe $1 a pick or something. But at the same time, we got some people in fourth place here that they want everybody to be involved in. So we'll do that when we get back. And Donna, you and Milk, y'all can ask some questions as well because you're not getting the time in. But I'm here with my boys. I'm having a good time. We'll be back in a moment. But one thing about it on this show, we have a good time. We talk about what you need to do as a player. We talk about what you need to do as a coach. Now what we need to know is what does this team need to do to win this game this weekend? We got about 30 seconds apiece. I'll start with you, G. What do you think?
You win, you're in. You have to win. You have to think about if you lose the game, it's done. Everything that the coach said is over. Like, I meant to know, I knew what we was going to do. No, if you don't get in, you didn't know what you was going to do. So,
how you prepare for this game?
It's the playoffs. It's simple.
No more need to be said.
No, I mean, it's a playoff. And we haven't been there in a long time. It's really simple.
Daryl Grant, you tell me what you think this team need to do. Give me about 30 seconds worth.
Hey, man, my mantra is hustle hard. Hustle hard. You got to get people, man. You got to go get it. You got to be hungry like a lion. That's it.
My man.
Hungry lion.
C-Rock. Right, Charles, and I'm glad to hear you say it wasn't no tackle in the game that really upset you.
I didn't say that.
That's what I heard, Tony.
Yeah. Let me give my little 30-second little bite. Okay, so these all came from our goals every week. We had offense, defense, and special teams goals that we would put up, and then we would see how we did. I'm only naming 4 of them. 1, we got to hold the opponent to under 21 points.
Yep.
2, we got to hold the running game to under 100 yards.
Yep.
3, we got to win the turnover battle. And 4, no big plays on offense.
That's
the other team's offense.
And that was there when I was there, and you can win with that formula every day. Big Dave, what do you think they need to do?
You got to be prepared. You self-prepared. We would watch or film. We were 4 down defensive line, so 2 tackles and two ends would both see the plays. So we'd go through each play 4 times, and then after that, I would go up and I would watch the film again and not pretend, but act like I was going to play myself. In other words, am I giving anything off? Am I too far forward? Are my legs the same? How come I went from a 3-point stance to a 4-point stance? You got to study. I would watch 4 film. 5 would make you bring in self-doubt. So I would watch 4 film the person I was playing. I knew his position, his handwork, his footwork. I knew the guys around him that turned their feet and everything. I knew all that stuff. I saw 1 play in color and 2 in black and white before they happened. And it was like 260-pound guys hitting me, but it didn't feel like anything because I'd already been there. You got to have that mindset. And you just can't stop or take anything for granted. I don't care if you're ahead. That's how teams lose. They stop doing what made them successful and allows the other team to sneak in there. And that just makes me so mad I could spit.
But Dexter, now I know what you would say. The big thing they need to do is get to the quarterback. Is that what this Washington team needs to do?
Well, first of all, I think they've started slow. I think they need to start fast on both sides of the ball.
Good point. Good point. That's an excellent point. Now, Donna, you and Milk, hit me right quick. We got about 2 minutes left.
Tony, it's this simple. They can't come out like they did on Sunday and not look like they wanted to win the game. They've got to look like they want to win the game on Sunday and play nasty ball, and they cannot afford to turn over the ball one time.
Milk.
For me, Tony, I'd say it's control the clock. Can't turn the ball over. Can't have penalties. And I think Dave hit it hard early. You got to be prepared.
And now I listened to everything everyone said, and you fans, you can evaluate it as you want to. You're looking at four or five guys up here that's been to numerous Super Bowls. You're looking at people that have covered them. All these people got a pretty good idea. And when you look at this team on Sunday, if they're not doing the things that you heard these individuals mention within the body of this show, they're not going to win the game. And you know what? I'm not feeling sorry for them. I'm not feeling sorry for Mr. Haskins. A lot of you probably do because he lost his job. Well, maybe he can go down there with a resume where he went to the party and get a job now. Because you know what? This is the time of the season that you feed your family. So this team, if they want to feed their family on into February, they need to win the game. I'm not saying they are. I'm not saying they're not. I'm talking about if they want to. Now, I asked you guys this. I didn't get a chance to get everything in, and I want to because we were going to talk about what you fans don't know. These guys been through a lot of different things since we've been out of the game. So I'm asking you guys right here on set, can I get you guys back in a couple of weeks? You see, they must have, all of them are talking to their lawyers now, should I mention this? I'm going to get them back anyway. But for you fans, I just want to know, can I get you back next week? And I tell you, this has been a great show for me because I played with these guys, and I know everything that they said, they did. And I tell
you, Tony, you know, I'm always real in the mug. You know, I'm going to tell it like it is. I called a strike. You know how I do it. You know how I do it.
I know how you roll. My man, World Greg can do it all. And for you fans,
yeah, he was great. He was a great partner to play with. I never had to look at him. I never had to look over and see if he was doing a job or if he needed help. He was always there and showed up for every game and hustled. He had a great motor, and it made me look a lot better because, you know, I only had to do one or two guys. He's taking care of one or two guys all the time.
Amen.
That's teamwork.
And since we're confessing stuff, my mentor and the guy that made me who I am, because Dexter wasn't giving up any secrets, was Tony McGee. Tony was there for me. He was teaching me when Dexter wouldn't. He was trying to help me beat Dexter. And so anyway, no, I would do anything for you, Tony. Anytime you need me, buddy, I'm there for you.
Hey, these are all my people. You know, you fans may hear us laugh and joke. Dave Butts, you guys have probably seen him smile more today than we did in the locker room doing his whole career.
Charles,
I'm just happy.
Dave, you made me great. Tony McGee made me what I was when I played.
Remember in Carlisle, it was a hot 110-degree day. And you said, Dave, I'm hot. I'm bruised up. He says, they're too cheap to water the field. My feet hurt from my spikes hitting the bottom of my shoes. And he says, I start feeling so bad and so abused. And he says, you said, I look over at you and you got that smile-ass grin on your face. And he said, all of a sudden, I don't feel so bad. I said, Charles, this is the greatest place in the world. You can beat the hell out of somebody across the line from you.
No, Dave got that joy from carving those ducks all day long.
And you know what, fans, if you want to hear some more stories like this, we got 5 shows left for this year. We're going to have people on like this every week. You come back and enjoy the real Washington team. And as I say each and every week, I don't tell you goodbye. It's in the minute.